surfaces. So it's kind of most important step because it's really hard surface painting, and I using a different way to paint it. First one is not obvious one. I just making a polygon based shape, and using a projection shrink wrap modifier, and it's kind of cheating, of course, and but it's just required. It's very important for some kind of surfaces that's really predefined, like for this car case, when you'll just spend too much time if you'll try to sculpt it. So just a simple projection will work for you, and if you make a mistake you can reproject it again. It's pretty simple, and I use it only for one flat surface on the side of the car, but it makes sense to use it more often for some sides, but it actually takes a little time, not too much, but it's slower than just paint it. And if you have a really problematic area where you're supposed to draw something, and you can't do it for a few minutes, just use a projection instead. Next way to do it is using a pinch brush and using a curve mode for that, or you can use a line, but I'm mostly using curve. So for this case it makes sense to use a saving view, so you can return back to this view, since you have to draw curve in the screen space and in view space. So every time you change view, you'll just almost lose your curve. For this case I use it for wheel painting around the wheel. So just I applied it one more time and one more and more time, and smooth it again and apply it one more time. So I care about the plane of this element. So this plane is aligned to x-axis, and I used just a flattened brush to make it flat for x-axis, and then I use a pinch brush for side and make a sharp edge. And I'm making actually the boolean at this stage, but it's kind of wrong. It should be done in the next step, but it's okay to use it right now. So pinch work for some kind of surfaces, but it doesn't work for another kind of surfaces, and you can just find what kind of surfaces works and what kind of surfaces doesn't work. So if you have a really advanced curvature in 3D space, like not just one plane, but one plane, then it's bended to x-axis, then it's bended to the y-axis and z-axis again. So it's really complicated. It's when you apply this brush multiple times, your curvature can be just broken, and it will be really hard to recover it later. So for this case of the front side of the car, I got this kind of this problem, but just use a rake and fill brush. It helps a bit. So it's actually better to use a projection and some polygons, just a few polygons and subdivision surface, and yeah, it's quite simple. So for concepting, it's nice to use fast brushes, and if you know how it's supposed to look in this case of car, or you just did a concept and then you found a shape and then you want to define it more precise, yes, it makes sense to use more polygons and projection, while you keep a full sculpting body as a single whole mesh. So you are not going to have a deal with complex polygon topology. You stay in high poly of sculpting and use a little bit of projection. So this is kind of my workflow. And here I'm just going to be closer for those splines, and I'm trying to pinch around those splines and create a sharp hard surface edges around those splines, and I'm trying to make it thinner and thinner and going closer and closer. And one more way to get a sharp edge, of course, using rake brush, but I am not using it here too much, almost never, but it's very good for concepting with a small amount of the normal radius, so you can get a really sharp edge, and you can get it really fast, but it's not too much predictable. It's excellent for concepting, but not so good for this car, so I'm just not using it too much here and using more pinch brush with curve. And again, if you want to use a pinch with curve, you have to store your view and then apply pinch once, then apply smooth, then apply pinch, and this way you'll modify topology, and topology will be attracted to your line of the pinching, line of the sharp edge, and after you applying smoothing brush, this sharp edge stay at the place, so you can do few iteration between pinch and smooth again and again, and you'll get closer and closer. Just pay attention that sometimes it can just break your line in axis that you didn't expect. So that's the bad point about this method to use making sharp edges. At the end of this video, I just using simple polygons modeling for some side elements of the car, because it's just make no sense to use a sculpting for this case. So it's really simple extrusion from plane. So yeah, it's again kind of cheating, so it's not a 100% sculpted car, just a 95% sculpted car. because there is not so many sharp edges, about 5 or 8 edges. This is quite simple for this case of this car. So don't forget about likes, please, and subscribe, please. See you next time.